Greetings, MGMT 420 organizational behavior students. This is Dr. Jaros with a video explanation for how I graded exam number 3, since we do not have any other class sessions at which I could explain the exam to you. So let's look at question number 1. If a manager assigns goals to a team that are not attainable, what are the likely consequences for team performance? What if the goals are not time-bound? Explain. Well, attainable means it has to be possible for the team to achieve the goal that's given to them by the manager. If the goal is not attainable, then this tends to have a very negative effect on the motivation of team members. Because team members will think to themselves, look, we've been given an impossible goal. And since it's impossible for us to achieve this goal, there's really not much point in us putting forth a lot of effort to try to achieve it. So the team will likely achieve less, perform at a lower level, than if the manager had established a lower goal, but one that was in fact attainable. As far as the time-bound criteria is concerned, time-bound means there's a time limit by which the goal has to be achieved, such as the goal of the team is to sell 100 cars by the end of 2021. Okay. If a goal is not time-bound, then in effect, the team has forever to achieve the goal. So it's impossible for management to hold the team accountable for achieving a goal that is not time-bound. And if team members know that they cannot be held accountable for not achieving a goal, then they are less likely to put forth effort and achieve it. So that will harm team performance as well. All right, what about question number 2? Under what combination of task structure, leader-member relations, and leader position power do relationship-oriented leaders tend to perform well? What about perform poorly? Explain. Well, the book explains that relationship-oriented leaders tend to perform well in mixed leadership situations. That is, some leadership situations are very favorable for the leader. Those are situations where the position power of the leader is strong. There are good member relationship. There's a good relationship between the leader and the members of the group, and also where the task is highly structured. Okay, that's a good situation for the leader. There's also situations that are very unfavorable for a leader. Those are the opposite. When position power of the leader is weak, when there are poor relationships, there's a poor relationship between the leader and the followers, and tasks are unstructured. Relationship-oriented leaders tend to do poorly in both of those kinds of situations, when the situation is very favorable and very unfavorable. Where relationship-oriented leaders tend to do well is in the middle, when there's a mix, when the situation is not too favorable and not too unfavorable. When it's kind of mixed, that's when relationship-oriented leaders tend to perform very well. All right, let's look at question number 3. How do the fit and strong culture perspectives differ in terms of what is the best kind of culture for an organization to have? Well, basically, the strong culture perspective says that for an organization to perform at a high level, it should have a very strong culture, meaning that the members of the organization should both buy into the values of the culture at an intense level, and the vast majority of the members of the organization should buy into these cultural values. So a strong culture means just about everyone in the culture agrees, everyone in the organization agrees with the culture's values, and they're strongly committed to those values. They're not wishy-washy about them. And the strong culture perspective says this is what leads to the highest level of organizational performance. In contrast, the fit perspective says, wait a minute, it's not so much whether a culture is strong or weak. What matters more is, do the cultural values fit with the values of the external environment, meaning like the marketplace, such that, if our organization has a culture that is strongly committed to delivering high levels of customer service, okay, that's only good, according to the fit perspective, if the market, if customers care about customer service. If customers don't care about customer service, then that kind of culture will not do us any good. Okay. So yes, you want to have a strong culture, but only if it fits with the demands of the marketplace. All right. Finally, last but not least, let's look at question number 4. An organization that is seeking to make significant changes decides to hire an outside consultant to help it do so. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this approach to managing change? Well, the strength of hiring an outside consultant, an external change agent, is that the external consultants bring an objective perspective to the problems of the organization. Because they're not part of the organization, they're not invested in what the organization has done before. They don't have any kind of emotional commitment to what the organization is currently doing. So they're like a fresh set of eyes on the organization's problems. Okay. Also, another advantage of an external consultant is that employees within the organization may view them as impartial. Because they're not part of the organization, they're not jockeying for position, they're not trying to, improve their career prospects within the organization. They're not competing with anyone who is a current member of the organization for a job or a promotion or anything like that. They are often viewed by employees as impartial and objective, and therefore more trustworthy. But on the other hand, there are some negatives to hiring an external consultant as well. One is that as an outsider, they have very limited knowledge of how the organization functions. They might miss, some problems that the organization has simply because they are not members of the organization. They're not inside the organization. They're not living it every day. And so their perspective is limited in that regard. Also, sometimes employees may view outside consultants with more suspicion. Because oftentimes organizations have a practice of, bringing in outside consultants when they want to fire people. So sometimes when an outside consultant comes into the organization, employees look at that consultant and say, oh no, this is someone management's bringing in to try to tell them who they need to get rid of. Maybe me. Okay. So, some employees might view an outside consultant as impartial and trustworthy, but others may be suspicious about them and fear that they are out for their jobs and things of that nature. All right, very good. I hope this explanation, helped you understand how I graded your third exam. Good luck on all of your other final exams in your other classes.